Hi everyone, thanks for visiting my channel. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Carol and I'm really glad that you stopped by. If you enjoy the content you find here, please consider subscribing, like and share my videos, and follow me on social media. I will leave all the links in the description box below. So today we are going to be using up some of our sourdough discard. Now a few weeks ago I shared with you about making sourdough bread, and for those of you who have a sourdough starter that you maintain and enjoy using, you will really enjoy making sourdough crackers. That's what we're going to make today. It's a great way to use up your discard, and what I love about it is you're using unfed discards. So it's a great way to not have to waste any of your discard or feed it. So that is what I enjoy about it, and the recipe is super simple. It's really easy to do and really fun. I was really surprised when I made the crackers at how delicious they were, how easy they were to make, and how great they are to have on hand. So you only need a few ingredients. We're going to be using some whole wheat white flour. You're going to be using a cup of your sourdough starter. You're going to be using a little bit of salt, and we're going to be using some fat. Now, the recipe I'm using is from King Arthur Flour's website, and for those of you who've hung around my channel very much, you know how much I enjoy King Arthur Flour, their company, the recipes, and all of that. So I'm going to be using one of their recipes. The recipe for the crackers calls for 4 tablespoons of room temperature butter. But last time when I made my crackers, I used 2 tablespoons of butter and 2 tablespoons of olive oil, and really enjoyed that combination. So that's what we're going to be using. I haven't tried using all olive oil, but I don't know why that wouldn't work. So we need 4 tablespoons of some sort of fat, and then you're going to need, it can be optional. I guess you don't have to use it, but they do recommend that you use some sort of dried herbs. And last time that I made them, I used this za'atar, I think that's how you say it, za'atar seasoning blend, and they were absolutely delicious. Really enjoyed that, but you can use any blend of dried herbs that you like, and you want up to 2 tablespoons of that. But today, for today's purposes, I want to do something a little bit different. I want to use up some of my everything bagel seasoning. So instead of mixing this in with my cracker dough, I'm going to sprinkle this on top. At the end, before you bake your crackers, you do brush them with a little bit of oil and sprinkle them with some sea salt. Sea salt is included in everything bagel seasoning, with a whole slew of other delicious yumminess in there. So I'm just going to be using my everything bagel seasoning on top, and I'm not going to use the dried herbs. But just know that that is an option, either way that you want to go. So let's get started. Okay, brush it a little bit closer so hopefully you can see everything really well. So like I said, easy stuff here. We are going to start with 1 cup of our whole wheat white flour. You could use regular whole wheat if you want to. I don't see why all-purpose flour wouldn't work either. I haven't tried it with all-purpose flour. I've always used the whole wheat white. But you need a cup of flour, and then we also need, we're also going to need 1 cup of unfed sourdough starter. So here's my starter that's been hanging out in my refrigerator. I took it out this morning, let it sit out for a couple hours. See how nice and active it is. Look at all those beautiful bubbles. And it's about 1.5 cups. So I'm going to remove everything except 1/2 cup of my starter, which the 1/2 cup is usually what you feed. So that's why this recipe is so perfect for using up your discard. So we're going to go ahead and put in there 1 cup of the sourdough starter. Kind of scrape it back down in there and make sure I have 1/2 cup left, and that's about right. So I'm going to set it aside, and that is what I'm going to feed. Let him hang out for a little bit on my counter to get bubbly again, and then I'm going to stick him back in the refrigerator until next week, and I'm ready to do some more baking. So there is our flour and our starter. We need 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Also, if you are going to be using dried herbs, now would be a good time to go ahead and add your dried herbs. And then I'm going to use 2 tablespoons of room temperature butter. It's nice and soft. And you could use, if you want to use all butter, use 4 tablespoons. And then I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of good olive oil. I just really like the combination of the olive oil and the butter. So it's 2 tablespoons. And then I'm going to use my handy dandy Danish whisk. If you have not tried one of these, I highly recommend it. I will leave a link for you in the description box for one of these, but I absolutely love it for making bread. So all we have to do here is just mix everything together. We want a nice cohesive but not sticky dough. And last time, what I did once I got it going is I just used my hands. And get it all to come together. There's not a lot of moisture here, so I found you have to work at it a little bit. Okay, everything is nice and combined. I just kind of knead it together until it all comes together, and it's going to be pretty dry. Then their instructions are to cut it in half, and then you're going to shape each half into a rectangle. And then I just put those on my cookie sheet. It doesn't have to be perfect. We're going to be rolling them out flat, so I just kind of mashed it down with my hands, shape it into a nice rectangle. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to cover them with plastic wrap, and we're going to put it in the refrigerator for about 30 minutes. We want to chill the dough a little bit so that it's nice and easy to roll it out and just give everything a chance to rest and come together. So I'm going to cover it with plastic wrap, put it in the refrigerator for 30 minutes, and then I'll bring you back and we can roll them out. And okay guys, our dough has been sitting in the refrigerator for about 30 minutes. You just want it to get nice and firm and make it a little bit easier to roll out for you. This does take a little bit of muscle. We do want to roll it out pretty thin. The instructions are to 1/16 of an inch. I just rolled it out so that it was nice and thin. So you're just going to take one of your rectangles and put it on a piece of parchment paper, and you want to sprinkle your parchment paper very, very lightly with just a tiny bit of flour, and then also your rolling pin. Now, I found this challenging because the parchment paper wants to slide around on my granite, so it can be a little bit challenging to do, but you just want to start rolling it. And we want to roll it out to a nice rectangle, like I said, about 1/16 of an inch. See, it's rolled out really thin. You don't want paper thin, but you want it pretty thin. And you're gonna have some ragged edges. So now at this point, what we wanna do is we wanna go ahead and take some, I'm using some olive oil. You can use whatever oil you want. And we're just gonna brush the surface of our dough with some oil. And then at this point, you're going to go ahead and sprinkle your sea salt. If you're going to salt them, I'm going to use my everything bagel seasoning. So I'm just going to go ahead and sprinkle my dough with some everything bagel seasoning. I'm going to press it on there just a little bit so that it sticks really well. Then you're going to take a sharp knife or a pizza cutter. I think a pizza cutter works really, really well here. And you're going to cut them in about 1.5 inch squares. So we're just going to try to get rid of some of the ragged edge. They don't have to be perfectly shaped, but once you get them cut into squares, and you're going to take a fork and you're going to prick each one 3 or 4 times. Okay, and then once you're done, you're going to take your piece of parchment paper and you're going to slide it over onto a baking sheet. Just like that, and then they're going to go into a 350-degree preheated oven. Okay, the other thing I wanted to mention is while they're baking, about halfway through, you're going to want to turn and rotate your trays. I have 2 trays in my oven, so I'm going to flip the trays, and I'm also going to flip them front to back. So about halfway through, do that so that they bake nice and evenly. Okay, for those of you wondering about maintaining sourdough starter, because I've had some questions about this, I usually just bake with mine once a week, sometimes more often, but usually just once a week. Our daughter's home from school right now, and she loves the sourdough bread for toast in the morning, and then she puts peanut butter on it, and I have to say that that basic sourdough bread that I shared with you guys makes absolutely amazing toast. So I make that at least once a week. So for example, for today, what I did is, you saw me, I took out the 1 cup of starter that I needed, and that left me with about a half of a cup. And to the half of a cup, I added a scant 1 cup of all-purpose flour and a half of a cup of water, stirred it together, and then I just let it hang out on my counter in my kitchen until it becomes active again. You just want to start seeing bubbles again, and you can see how it's risen and it's gotten bubbly again. So now he's ready to go back into the fridge until next week, and I don't have to fool with it or think about it anymore. So it's really that easy to maintain. You just need to feed it once a week, store it in your refrigerator, and yeah, you can have sourdough on hand to bake with, and I love it. So I'm really, really enjoying my sourdough starter. For those of you wondering, all I did was follow King Arthur Flour's instructions on making my sourdough starter. And I shared with all of you that I started with the, I used the sprouted whole wheat flour, but you could use any whole grain flour. It helps to get it off to a good start. And that's what I did. And I've had an amazing, very active starter just by following their instructions. And I will leave the link to that, to creating your own sourdough starter, in the description box below. I will also leave their link for maintaining your sourdough starter, but it's basically what I just shared with you. You just need to remove all of it except for about a half a cup. Feed the half a cup once a week with a scant 1 cup of all-purpose flour and a half a cup of water, and then let it become active again and stick it in the fridge, and then do something with your discard. So it's really easy to maintain, and it's great to have on hand. Okay guys, once you bake your crackers until they're as brown as you want them, I always bake mine for the longer time, so I baked mine for 25 minutes. I like mine to be pretty golden brown, but when they're done, you just want to set them out on a cooling rack and let them cool, which is what I've been doing and waiting patiently. And then I just wanted to show you how beautiful they are. Nice, thin, look just delicious. So let's give them a taste, see how we did this time. Hear the crunch? See the flaky layers in your crackers? So good, so crispy, really nice. I love the everything bagel seasoning. I will tell you though that you're gonna have to press it down to get it to stay on really well. It has great flavor. I don't know that I would want to mix it into my dough, which is why I put it on top, because mine has sesame seeds in it, and I don't think I want that mixed in necessarily, but you could. Mine also has rosemary, garlic, salt, a few other spices in there, but I love them on top, but you're gonna have to press it into your cracker if you do that. The last time that I made them. I told you I did the za'atar seasoning, and then this is what those look like, and then I just sprinkled them with salt on top. But they're great as well. See, how nice is that? Mmm, so good. You guys gotta give it a try. Who knew you could make delicious homemade crackers right in the comfort of your own kitchen, right? So tasty, and a beautiful way to use up your sourdough discard. Didn't have to feed it, nothing. Just take it out of the fridge, let it warm up a bit, measure out a cup, and then make your crackers. Absolutely wonderful. So I hope you'll give the recipe a try. I'll leave all the links in the description box for you below. Like, subscribe, and share, and I will see you next time. Have a great day.